Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks going on the road to Kinnick Stadium playing the Iowa Hawkeyes. Now, multitude of things I want to get into, but I want to start with this. The College Football Playoff Committee very clearly told us they are not a fan of the resume that Oregon has built up until this point. Guess what the College Football Playoff Committee also told us on Tuesday night? That they think Iowa's a top 20 team. So this is a chance for Oregon to go on the road against a team that the committee is telling us is a top 20 team in the country, go on the road and win. Now, the real reason I want to get into this episode is I think a lot of people in the national media are misunderstanding this football game where you listen to how people are talking about this game. There's a lot of people that are taking Iowa, and I don't necessarily blame people for taking Iowa. I think they might be taking Iowa for the wrong reasons here, right? Colder. There's probably going to be some weather in this football game. Guess what I'm trying to say is this game might look a little bit ugly. I don't know if there's going to be a ton of points that are put up on the scoreboard. I think a lot of people gravitate, well, that certainly favors Iowa. Are we sure? Because the question I would ask is, hey, what team do I trust more to run the football? If it's cold, wet, rainy, a little windy, okay, throwing the football might be hard. I don't think either team maybe has a ton of success throwing the football. Well, who runs the football better? It's not a shot at Iowa because they run the football pretty damn well. Oregon's got the number 2 rushing attack in the country. Like, I would argue they have the best run blocking offensive line that you see in the entire country. I'm not so sure if I'm buying into this, hey, ugly, sloppier, slower game clearly favors Iowa because I think Oregon is comfortable there. And that's one of the things that I really like about this Oregon team. Same things we talk about with Texas A&M as well. When I look at Oregon, when I look at Texas A&M, I think they're both teams that, yeah, they're comfortable winning in shootout fashion if they need to. Like, we know Dante Moore, Corey and Moore, Will Stein offense. We know they can fill it up if they need to, but at the same time, like, I think Oregon is pretty dang comfortable playing that classic Big Ten game where you're running the football and there's not a ton of points up on the scoreboard. I don't think people realize that. That's where we're going to start. Going to get into a few more, I think, best way to put it, a couple more things that I think need to happen if Oregon wants to go on the road and avoid the upset. Before we get into it, as always, the Oregon fans, appreciate you guys. And how about a little bit of a vibe check in the comment section? How are we feeling Friday mid-afternoon heading into this football game? We will certainly break down what we see on Saturday afternoon. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, this is kind of where I started, right? Does an ugly game really favor Iowa? Now, it might, because Iowa doesn't really have the passing attack. They're going to run the football regardless if it's cold and rainy or 80 and sunny. Like, Iowa's going to run the football, right? I just don't think people talk enough about, because all the conversation, and you think about Oregon historically, and it's the quarterbacks and the wide receivers that have been through this program, Dante Moore, Corey and Moore. Ain't nobody talk about Oregon running the football. And I think that's what separates this team this year. There's not a lot of teams that can run the football against anybody in the country. I think Oregon is one of those teams. And quite frankly, you go back to that game against Indiana, I felt like Oregon did not lean into the rushing attack enough. And I think this is going to be a really big test for Will Stein as your play caller. Can you be disciplined? Can you be patient? Can you be willing to stick with the run game regardless of how the game looks? It felt like when Oregon went down against Indiana, we got really quick to try to catch them. And not really, because you go back and watch that Indiana game, Oregon was moving bodies on the ground. Like, they were running the football pretty damn effectively. Just didn't stick with it. Is Will Stein willing to stick with it on the road here is probably the biggest question I have in this football game. The other thing here is, and this kind of goes into number 2, like getting Dante Moore settled in, because this is an Iowa defense that does very, very similar things to what Indiana does. They're extremely opportunistic. They're extremely good in zone covers. They're extremely good at varying the looks and kind of confusing pre snap stuff. Dante Moore looked very unsettled when he played Indiana a couple of weeks ago. How do we get Dante Moore settled in on the road against a very, very good defense? Yeah, to me, it starts with running the football. I mean, you guys heard me say this all year. Dante Moore is at his best when he has a run game to lean on. Dante Moore's numbers working off play action are astronomically better than when he's just dropping back and throwing the football. And that's not to say that he can't just drop back and throw it, because we know he can. He's much better working off play action. You give him a run game here, it increases your chances of getting Dante Moore's best version Saturday afternoon in Kinnick Stadium. I think another storyline here is that Will Stein, can we do a better job giving him some easy throws early, some screens, some spot concepts? Yeah, let's let Dante Moore see the ball through the hoop. And I ain't much of a basketball guy, but I know what a rhythmic shooter is. Dante Moore's a rhythmic passer. Like when you get Dante Moore into a rhythm, he's gonna carve you up. You got to figure out a way to get Dante Moore into a rhythm early. And here's the other thing: you score early here. This is a huge storyline, right? What's the score look like after the first quarter of this football game? Number one, because you're on the road, and anytime you go on the road, you want to take an early lead and kind of settle this football team in. Number two, this Iowa team is not built to play from behind. If you can go up 7-0 after the first quarter, 10-0 after the first quarter, put Iowa into a little bit of an early deficit, forces Iowa to get away from how they want this game to be played. And that's one of the biggest reasons I like Oregon in this one, is that Iowa kind of has that one pathway to win this football game. I think Oregon has a lot of pathways. If you can force Iowa to get off of that pathway, put yourself in a good spot. Take care of the football. This one, again, this is kind of low-hanging fruit, but it's really important to talk about. When you close your eyes and you envision Oregon getting upset here, you feel like there's going to be a key turnover or two that Oregon has. Got to avoid it, right? Now, again, running the football, I think, is a big storyline in terms of taking care of the football. Number two, most importantly, staying on schedule. Like when Iowa does their best work forcing turnovers, it's when they get you behind schedule, they get you in those third and obvious passing situations, they get aggressive. They start changing pictures. You want to avoid the opportunities Iowa gets in those situations. The best way to do that, hey, run the football, 2nd and 6, 3rd and 2, moving the chains. On the defensive side of the football, I think this is pretty straightforward, right? This is fair to say, it is a one-dimensional offense that you're going to be playing. Iowa has not shown the ability to throw the football down the field very effectively. It's really hard to see them having that ability in this game. I mean, you look at Oregon secondary, you can make the arguments the best in the country. I'll just give you the individual numbers here. Brandon Finney on the year, true freshman cornerback. The crazy numbers. 21 targets, and he's only given up 3 catches. I mean, that is silly numbers from Brandon. He's been one of the best pure cornerbacks in the country. Forget freshman. Efi Obadegu, 16 targets, only 7 catches given up, less than 50%. Jaden Kennedy at nickel, 21 targets, only 10 catches given up. Not a single one of Oregon's starting cornerbacks has over a 50% completion percentage given up against an Iowa offense that hasn't really shown the ability to throw the football on anybody. How are they going to throw the football against the best secondary in the country? Okay. We got to stop the run. Well, because you have the cornerbacks that you have, because that matchup with Oregon's cornerbacks versus Iowa's wide receivers is so heavily skewed towards Oregon, you can afford to start getting aggressive with your safeties. Yeah, it's another thing I love about Oregon. Both of these safeties that play a lot, Dylan Thiem and Aaron Flowers, they are nails when it comes to coming up into the box, supporting the run. If you're Oregon, that's what you're doing. Hey, well, we are going to put our safeties in the box. We're going to put our DBs on islands. We're going to stop the run. And hey, if Iowa can come out there and throw the football on this Oregon secondary, Tape your cap to him. We'll have a ball game. I don't think Iowa can. I don't think Dan Lanning thinks that either. Last thing, and this is important too, avoiding the upset. Your best players. Who are the 10 best players that'll be on the football field Saturday afternoon? And do a single one of them, have an Iowa Hawkeye helmet on? That sounds disrespectful at first, but I truly think that at least 9 of the 10 best players on the football field, maybe outside of Weegan for Iowa, that kid's sick, are wearing Oregon Duck uniforms, Oregon Duck helmets. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, hey, you got to have your best players be the best players on the field. Make plays that change games. Whether that's Tatum or Teo with the strip sack, whether that's the Corey and Moore popping a big play, whether that's Brandon Finney forcing a turnover, giving Oregon a short field, whoever that might be. You got the best players on the field are wearing an Oregon Duck helmet. You got to rely on those cats to go make plays that change games. It's kind of what happened in Penn State, right? I mean, what we said, what was the biggest reason Oregon beat Penn State is like the best players on the field that night. Most of them were wearing an Oregon Duck uniform. It's a very similar storyline heading into this game. Going to be a fun one. Wanted to hop on and tell you again, the biggest disagreement that I have is that the conditions, the bad conditions, you might say, favor Iowa. I don't know if that's true with Oregon's ability to run the football. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later.